Tonight at 10, the government scales back its high-speed rail plans in the north of England. Labour calls it the Great Train Robbery. The HS2 rail line between the East Midlands and Leeds has been scrapped. A new route linking Leeds and Manchester won't be built in full, and Bradford misses out altogether.
I genuinely believe government when they say they want to level up and they want to invest, but this is a real kick in the teeth for the north.
But the government says it is investing £96 billion in track and rail improvements, making journey times faster sooner.
I think that this is a monumental programme for rail investment, for commuters, for passengers in the East Midlands, West Midlands, the whole of the north of the country.
We'll be getting reaction from commuters and businesses, also on the programme tonight. Azeem Rafiq, who called out racism against him at Yorkshire Cricket Club, apologises for using anti-Semitic language on social media 10 years ago. The Irish Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, tells the BBC goodwill on all sides can solve the row over trade in Northern Ireland. The migrants trapped on the edge of the EU. We follow one Afghan family who've tried dozens of times to get in. And Prince Charles visits the pyramids, saying they should inspire us to protect the planet as Egypt prepares to host next year's climate change summit.
And coming up in the sport on the BBC News Channel, Rangers get their man. Former player Giovanni van Bronckhorst is the new manager of the Scottish champions. The Dutchman replaces Steven Gerrard.
Good evening. The government has scrapped the HS2 line between the East Midlands and Leeds, which was promised a decade ago. Instead, as part of the integrated rail plan, the government will increase investment in existing lines, which they say will deliver faster journeys sooner. But Labour has called the scaling back of the high-speed rail line a betrayal of the north. HS2 was originally meant to connect London with Birmingham, Manchester and Leeds. The leg between the East Midlands and Leeds will now be scrapped. Between Manchester and Leeds, there will be some improvements with new high-speed rail in parts, which will still make the current 53-minute journey much quicker, but not 29 minutes as promised. In total, £96 billion will now be spent upgrading existing services and building new but shorter stretches of high-speed track. Well, Katie Austin is in Leeds for us tonight. Katie.
Yes, Sophie, those who back this plan, including the Prime Minister, view it as better value for money and delivering a better balance between improved local services and new high-speed links. Others, though, including many here in Yorkshire, say the scaling back of two major rail projects is nothing short of a broken promise. This South Yorkshire logistics business has been on its own fast journey of expansion, and it's not done yet. The boss hoped HS2 stretching up to Leeds would free up much more space on the railways for freight and ease road congestion.
I really think that the country needs more rail infrastructure to reduce carbon, take more wagons off the road and improve on supply chain demands.
The government insists its new plan will still produce faster journey times and add capacity, but deliver improvements sooner. That's not enough for some.
If HS2 is not going to be arriving in Yorkshire in the way it was meant to be arriving in Yorkshire, that undermines the local place, and that affects businesses of every sector. And therefore, people from all walks of life, whether they're in rail or whatever industry, are upset and invested in this decision.
42 of the £96 billion announced today was already allocated to the first stages of HS2, linking London to Birmingham and Crewe. Schemes to be funded by the remaining money include the western leg of HS2 to Manchester and extensive upgrades to other parts of the rail network. Two other new sections of high-speed rail will be built, one on the HS2 route from Birmingham to the East Midlands, another between Warrington, Manchester and Marsden in Yorkshire. But those sections will be smaller and cheaper than under previous proposals. The Prime Minister nearly missed his train to Yorkshire today. Once on board, though, he defended the changes. Why should people in the north accept less than they were promised?
Because they're getting an absolutely fantastic new system. And yes, of course,
it's not quite what they were promised.
People who argue that you're better off spending a long time and tens of billions more carving through virgin countryside and building whole new lines everywhere. But what we're doing is doing something that brings the benefits 10 years or up to 10 years faster and delivers much shorter journey times.
But Labour has accused the government of going back on its word.
The North of England have been betrayed because the Prime Minister made two very important promises. HS2 all the way to Leeds, a new line. That promise has been ripped up. He also promised the Northern Powerhouse Rail a new line from Manchester to Leeds, and that plan's been ripped up.
One transport group said getting high-speed trains from Birmingham is a win for the East Midlands.
It also allows us to progress our flagship scheme, the Midlands Rail Hub, which will unlock 11 million seats along the rail network, allowing us to have quicker journeys from places like Hereford, Worcester and other cities up and down the Midlands.
And opponents of HS2 are celebrating.
Is it good news or what?
The railway would have torn right through this village near Rotherham. In parts of northern England, though, there's a feeling what could have been a golden opportunity has been diminished. Katie Austin, BBC News.
Well, one city that will definitely lose out is Bradford. It had hoped to be included on the proposed new Leeds to Manchester line with a station built for the new trains. From Bradford, Danny Savage reports.
The north of England, a place where new trains run on old lines.
There's a load of land outside as well, and we could make this into a station by 2028.
There was hope that this market in Bradford would be redeveloped as a station for a new high-speed Trans-Pennine link known as Northern Powerhouse Rail. But today, that hope died.
Really disappointing. I mean, I am somebody who puts my place above politics, so I genuinely believe government when they say they want to level up and they want to invest. But this is a real kick in the teeth for the north.
Journey times from Bradford to Leeds will be halved. But passengers heading west to Manchester and beyond are disappointed.
So I catch the train from Bradford to Bolton. It can take up to 2 hours. It would have been great, wouldn't it, for the north? You know what I mean? To be able to travel, you know, on like a train that gets you somewhere to your destination a lot faster.
Instead of a new link, this existing one between Huddersfield and Leeds is going to be upgraded.
Today's announcements will transform this line, but it won't be easy. This is a railway the Victorians built. There's an awful lot of engineering work to be done, and it will take years.
The plan has divided Tory MPs, whose constituencies are 75 miles apart.
What I was very hopeful to see was Northern Powerhouse Rail with a stop in Bradford. We are one of the most socially deprived areas of the UK, and I'm really passionate about increasing that economic prosperity of the Bradford district. And of course that relies on having excellent transport links east, but also west to Manchester.
I think levelling up, personally, is about creating good, sustainable, well-paid jobs and helping people to get there. And there are lots of things to celebrate from a Nottinghamshire perspective in this plan.
But what do the paying customers in Leeds think?
It seems like, obviously, Lancashire side, it's all been sorted that way. They're giving us these fantastic times, so you're going to get to London, but here it seems as if we've been forgotten yet again.
I think it just creates a bigger divide, doesn't it, with the north and the south, which is a shame.
Yeah, I suppose it is disappointing, but again, it's not something I was desperately in the need of. I think what we've got already is more than sufficient.
In time, passengers will notice a better rail network in the north. But today's announcement falls far short of aspirations this government built up. Danny Savage, BBC News.
Let's talk to our political correspondent Jonathan Blake at Westminster. A lot of disappointment and anger we heard there, including from some Conservative MPs.
Sophie, there's no doubt this plan splits opinion, and not just along party lines here at Westminster. Yes, Labour are accusing the government of a broken promise and a betrayal of the North, but some Conservatives aren't too happy either. Because for some it doesn't deliver what people on their patch of the map had hoped for, but for others they're openly questioning why the Prime Minister often seems to promise one thing and deliver another. To understand why the government's gone for this option, though, I think we need to consider this. Boris Johnson talks a lot about levelling up, his pledge to improve opportunities for people across the UK, and transport is a key part of that. And sooner or later, he needs to have something to show for it. So he's banking on scaling back the plans slightly, but being able to deliver them more quickly. And he will have to hope that although rail services won't improve overnight, far from it, it'll be years into the future, people will, before too long, maybe even by the next election, be able to see those improvements underway and feel like the benefits are within reach.
Jonathan Blake, thank you. As tensions rise between the EU and the UK over trade in Northern Ireland, the Irish leader, Micheál Martin, has told the BBC the arrangements in the Brexit deal were never going to be perfect and that goodwill is now needed on both sides. The so-called protocol avoided a hard border on the island of Ireland, but means Northern Ireland has to follow some EU rules, with businesses now complaining of increased bureaucracy. Our political editor, Laura Koonsberg, has been speaking to the Taoiseach in Cardiff, where he has been meeting UK ministers.
Tucked away in the Welsh countryside, tension for the whole UK and its nearest neighbour to solve. The bust-up's brewing over how life after Brexit is affecting Northern Ireland. Could the time to fix it be running out?
But clearly,
the Irish leader now wants to calm things down after irritation on both sides over arrangements that mean extra customs checks.
It's never going to be perfect, but it's important that we don't allow perfect to become the enemy to good.
It's very clear that many businesses just think the way it's operating is over the top.
You know, I spoke to Angela Merkel a year ago, who said to me, the last thing we want is an abundance of checks. We want to minimise checks.
That's what's happening,
and
isn't it?
No, it's not. I think that's overstated now, Laura, but to some degree. There's not an abundance of checks, and it can get resolved with goodwill on all sides.
Overstated?
It may look filled here, but there's a lot of ingredients that we just can't get hold of.
At Sawyer's Deli, extra rules on products that go from Britain to Belfast mean a lot of extra work. Deliveries now can take 7 hours to sort.
I don't even know what Article 16 is going to imply or what it's going to do to my business. And I'm just hoping that they sort something out and just let us go back to the way it was.
Politicians who back the union in Northern Ireland want the whole arrangement gone, pushing the government to suspend parts of it in a legal dispute, Article 16.
Our place in the United Kingdom is being undermined. That is not acceptable.
Do you believe that the UK government will push the button on Article 16 before too long?
Well, in the absence of agreement with the European Union, so be it. That is an entirely valid and legal action.
But in this Dungannon yard, where these massive machines are made, the protocol means they're commercially closer to the continent, and they do not want to give that all up.
To me, it's a no-brainer. We need it to stay. We need to be able to access that European market. It's a growth market. It's very important for our industry and our sector, and it's very important for this company.
This is a genuine dilemma for the Prime Minister and his team. They've said for months what's happening in Northern Ireland can't be allowed to go on. But they can't be sure that the European Union will budge in a meaningful way. But to take the next step, to start an official legal dispute with Brussels, could make what is already a problem profoundly worse.
Now there's a bit of engagement.
A trigger of that so-called Article 16 might lead to the EU hitting back, even tearing down the whole trade deal, although he was more diplomatic tonight.
Do we really want that to go into a period of stress, for example, in terms of accusations of bad faith coming from both sides? I'm glad to say that the mood music has changed. Now, there's still a long way to go.
A year ago, you said that UK had to knuckle down to get a deal. What's your message to the UK now?
It was Christmas Eve in the end.
It was.
I'd say don't leave it to Christmas Eve this year.
Yet UK insiders don't buy that very much has changed. Relations are restless, and there's nothing certain about a deal being done by Christmas, or if at all. Laura Koonsberg, BBC News, Cardiff.
And if you want to hear the whole of Laura's interview with the Taoiseach, you can tune in to Newscast tonight at 11:35 on BBC One or listen to the podcast on BBC Sounds. The former Yorkshire cricketer Azeem Rafiq has apologised and said he is deeply ashamed after it emerged he had used anti-Semitic language in social media messages 10 years ago. Rafiq has been at the centre of the racism controversy which has engulfed Yorkshire Cricket Club. Our sports correspondent Natalie Perks is with me now. And these are messages that he sent 10 years ago when he was 19.
It's been quite the 48 hours for Azeem Rafiq. On Tuesday, we heard him give quite harrowing testimony about how racism, he believed, had robbed him of his cricket career. Tonight and today, historical messages between him and another player from 10 years ago that are anti-Semitic in nature have emerged in the Times newspaper. Now, he said there are absolutely no excuses, he was ashamed of it, and that he was 19 at the time and hopes and believes he's a different person today. He added, "I'm incredibly angry at myself and I apologise to the Jewish community and everyone who is rightly offended by this." Now, since then, he's added another tweet tonight saying, "At no point will I ever try and defend the indefensible. For those I've hurt, I'm sincerely sorry. I'll continue to own any more mistakes I've made." Now, there's been quite a big response to this, as you can imagine. Jewish leaders have been largely supportive, actually, of how quickly he apologised. Rafiq told the BBC yesterday that he hopes by speaking out right now, it'll be the moment that not only sport but society as a whole can move in a different direction.
Natalie, thank you. The NHS in Wales has recorded its worst ever figures for both hospital emergency departments and ambulance services. Less than 65% of patients in A&E were seen within 4 hours last month, and ambulances reached only half of life-threatening emergencies within the 8-minute target time. The waiting list also broke records, with more than a fifth of the Welsh population currently waiting for planned treatment. The latest government coronavirus figures show there were 46,807 new infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period, the highest daily figure for a month. On average, just over 39,500 new cases were reported per day in the last week. 199 deaths were recorded. That's of people who died within 28 days of a positive COVID-19 test. On average, in the past week, 147 related deaths were recorded every day. Almost 13.9 million people have now had their booster injection. More than 4 years after the Grenfell Tower fire, up to 500,000 people are still living in blocks of flats with flammable cladding and fire safety issues. It has left many feeling scared and trapped in their own homes. Now, a new study of those caught up in the cladding crisis has revealed what it's called a catastrophic impact on their mental health, as Sarah Corker reports.
Are you okay? Sophie bought her first home in Chelmsford just weeks before son Reuben was born. A proud moment, but all that quickly changed.
Which bit of the building is the problem?
So all of this is ACM cladding. That's the same type of cladding as Grenfell. To remove it could cost flat owners thousands. And living here is taking its toll on Sophie's mental health.
It's kind of like that crippling depression where you can't get up. Just couldn't see the point in anything. And I've had such bad issues with my anxiety. Some days I feel like I can't leave the house, and I have like physical problems leaving the house because I all feel so sick.
Sophie's now been prescribed anti-anxiety medication, and her doctor was so shocked by the cladding situation, he wrote to Sophie's MP imploring her to raise the issue in Parliament.
The Housing Select Committee has warned that the cladding scandal is becoming a public health crisis, and psychologists have told the BBC that people living in these conditions will need long-term counselling and support to get through it.
New research by the University of Sheffield, based on a series of in-depth interviews, found the situation is having a catastrophic impact on the mental health of some leaseholders.
Things like just feeling that they couldn't go on, that they were trapped and that they couldn't see a way out of this crisis was leading to feelings of suicide and self-harm. And in those situations, individuals had to seek immediate help either for themselves or for a member of their household.
It's like having a ball and chain wrapped around your legs.
Will is a junior doctor who owns a flat in Sheffield with dangerous cladding.
So I'm going to show you this video diary you did a year ago to see what's changed for you.
I'm just so exhausted and so tired of this situation. It is so consuming.
An absolutely fantastic supporter of us.
Campaigning for change has helped him cope, but Will deeply regrets his decision to ever buy a flat.
I was so embarrassed. I was utterly ashamed that I, like a sensible person, had made this colossal mistake, like this huge error of judgment, and the impact it's had on my mental health will stay with me forever.
The government says it's allocated £5 billion to make the highest grist blocks safe.
To relieve some of the obligations that are being faced by leaseholders at the moment, who are innocent parties in this.
You can hold my hand.
Back in Chelmsford, since we filmed with Sophie, the developer has now agreed to pay to remove the dangerous cladding. It's a huge relief, but for thousands of others, the wait for help continues. Sarah Corker, BBC News in Essex.
Across Eastern Europe, from Belarus to the Balkans, people fleeing conflict and poverty are trying to reach the European Union. One popular route into the EU is through Bosnia and Herzegovina, into Croatia. According to the UN, since 2018, some 75,000 migrants have moved through Bosnia-Herzegovina into neighbouring countries. Our correspondent Fergal Keane reports on one couple from Afghanistan and their 2-year-old daughter who've tried over and over again to reach the EU.
Near the Croatian border, a refugee family is waiting to cross. Akram was a television engineer in Kabul. Zahra was a policewoman in Herat, but fled in 2016. Baby Sarah was born in Greece, where the family had a previous asylum request denied.
They are countryless. They are illegally all the world. What should we have to do?
They say they've been pushed back from Croatia 39 times. Once, they allege, with force.
No. They came and hit my husband. And I said, why you are hitting my husband? And they hit me also in my face and said, shut up. Who will help us? The life become like a hell for us, for all of us.
Some migrants wait in abandoned factories from which they can easily reach the border at night. Others in temporary reception centres, like this run by the United Nations.
How concerned are you by the numerous reports of pushbacks that are happening in this region?
We see many of the migrants themselves being returned back. We see that they've been deprived of their shoes, they've been deprived of their basic goods and sometimes really of their dignity.
The Croatian government didn't respond to a request for comment, but has already denied a policy of pushbacks and says it upholds its legal obligations to asylum seekers. 3 policemen were suspended after being accused of violence against migrants. But only the snows, due here soon, are likely to slow the desperate attempts to reach the EU.
It's just after 5 o'clock in the morning and the family is preparing for another attempt at crossing the border. We'll go with them as far as we're allowed to on the Bosnian side. And let's just see what happens if they're able to cross.
There's fear that baby Sarah will cry and alert border guards.
She's really fast asleep, huh?
We must sleep in this way. If she wake up, it's especially in the border. If she wake up, she will cry, and the people that they are close to the border, their house, so they will call the police.
So we're just coming up to the border. They've seen a car on the other side, which they suspect is Croatian police. So what do you plan to do?
We have to cross.
It's a journey that's already taken nearly 4,000 miles. Several hours later, Akram sent us a video of the families inside Croatia.
So we are here, we are in Croatia now.
The police came and put them in this van. Because Greece refused asylum, Croatia can reject them. But it must first check their background and status. Instead, they say they were pushed back again.
Are you going to keep trying?
Trying again?
Yeah.
We have to do. We don't want to be hopeless. Every time when the police deporting us, we are saying to ourselves, okay, no problem, we will try to go again.
Croatia, Europe, want to stem the flow of migrants. But there's no way home now, no way forward. Fergal Keane, BBC News, Bosnia.
Prince Charles says the UK will stand by Egypt in what he called the epic struggle to protect the planet as Egypt prepares to host the next round of climate talks in 2022. He was speaking on the first day of his trip to the country, where he and the Duchess of Cornwall also visited the pyramids at Giza. Our royal correspondent Johnny Diamond is travelling with them.
The Prince, the President and a palace. The formalities look like business as usual, but Prince Charles is in Cairo with a cause. First came a stop at one of the oldest mosques and greatest institutes of learning in the Islamic world, Al-Azhar. Here there was talk with students, part of the Prince's lifelong interest in Islam and efforts at interfaith dialogue. And then, of course, to the pyramids. First, a chance to clamber amongst the great building blocks, and then to go inside these tombs of long-gone rulers. And, of course, the Sphinx, a chance to marvel at a civilization 4,500 years old. What it was for and why it was built is still unclear. But for Prince Charles, there's a message in the riddle.
This is the pretty part of this trip, the part that advertises this country, the part that catches everybody's attention. But what's closest to the Prince's heart is what comes later this evening. If the ancients could make all of this, the Prince thinks, why can't we do something about climate change?
A reception with the country's elite and an opportunity to urge this regional giant on in the fight against climate change.
As President Sisi steps forward to take on the presidency of COP27 later this year, the United Kingdom will be with Egypt as your friend and partner in this epic struggle to protect and restore our environment and to build a better future for us all. Thank you, Mr.
And a long day of dialogue and diplomacy about the future ended with a last look at the glories of the past. Johnny Diamond, BBC News, Cairo.
And that's it from us. Good night.